welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, nationally and internationally known as the Money Lady. For the last 36 years, yeah, I'm not a young woman anymore, I have specialized in all areas of money management and money in general. And I'm delighted to bring to you a venue to focus on people that are exceptional and extraordinary in the fields of money, finance, and related business. So today I have as my special guest for the next hour a gentleman who has shown himself to be just a stellar personality, a man of tremendous accomplishments and achievements. And that gentleman is Jose Rafi Rodriguez, who is the president of Rodriguez Financial Services in Beaver Creek, Ohio. And I want to give you a little bit of background about him, and then I'm going to introduce him to you, and then we're going to spend the next hour talking about federal employee benefits and some of the challenges that they need to know about. This is his specialty, although he does financial planning and investments as a livelihood. Rafi, who I refer to, Rodriguez, is president at the Center for Hispanic Leadership-Ohio since November of 2012. He's also president of his own company, which he established in April of 2009. In addition to his accomplishments, he was executive director of the Ohio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He has been a financial advisor to Smith Barney, financial advisor to First Command Financial Services, and this is what I love, he is a retired colonel at the United States Air Force, where he spent 26 years, being a distinguished graduate from the United States Air Force ROTC program. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1978. He obtained a Bachelor of Science in Aeronautical Engineering from the Air Force Institute of Technology and a Master's of Science in Systems Analysis from the University of West Florida. Again, he's dedicated over 25 working years on research development and program management of weapon systems to provide combat superiority to the United States Air Force. In 2004, Mr. Rodriguez retired from military service in the rank of colonel. We love our veterans. We love people that have served our country with honor and dignity, and he has. We're going to be spending the next hour talking to this remarkable man, not just about his business, which is very, very fine, but also about his commitment to his people, which is the Hispanic community, and the work that he has done. And most notably, an event coming up on November the 7th, the Hispanic Workforce and Economic Development Summit, which will be held in Columbus, Ohio. And that he is a very, very involved individual in that initiative, first annual. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest, Mr. Rafi Rodriguez, who is president of Rodriguez Financial Strategies, LLC.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
My
Thank you for inviting
goodness, illustrious history, illustrious.
Been busy.
Yes.
It's been good to
One
be busy.
cannot, God has been good.
It's been great. It's been my guidance, actually.
I was going to say, without a doubt, clearly you're a man of purpose. And in fact, one of the things I read, charting a course for living your life on purpose.
Absolutely.
That is truly what you're doing.
That's what I do every day.
Ah, my goodness. So, where do we want to begin? Let's talk about this conference.
Well, how do we came about starting the Center for Hispanic Leadership-Ohio?
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed is that I was very engaged throughout the chambers of commerce, the Hispanic chambers of commerce throughout Ohio, predominantly leading the Dayton Hispanic Chamber and then having a leadership role at the state level. And as I go forward, I wanted to pursue another passion for the Hispanic business community, and it was more on the leadership development. which I saw somehow of lacking. When you look at the numbers, the Hispanics are very well up to a certain level in industry
Yes.
and in business, but it's almost like the as we call it, the glass ceiling.
Yes.
And a lot of it is the lack of homing in on some key leadership skills to move to the C-suite, may I say.
Okay, okay.
And the Center for Hispanic Leadership, the founder and CEO, Mr. Glenn Llopis, Cuban-American and from California,
Okay.
met me through the Hispanic Chamber, says, Rafi, I heard a lot about you in Ohio. We need to open a chapter in Ohio. So on November of 2012, we started the Center for Hispanic Leadership-Ohio.
Okay.
And he said, I would like you to lead it. So to that end, we are teaming up. This is a unique event because the Center for Hispanic Leadership, which is a for-profit organization, is teaming up with the Ohio Commission on Hispanic and Latino Affairs, which is a government entity.
Okay.
So we have
is that under Governor Kasich?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And
good.
Ms.
Okay.
Lily Kavanaugh is the director. So we have the government entity and a private entity teaming up for the first time.
That is wonderful.
To do an event that homes in on leadership skills, as well as bringing out the economic development tools for Hispanic business owners or any minority group for that matter. They'll come in and learn how to do business with the government, where to find funding, how to create more opportunities right here in the state of Ohio. And it's on November 7th.
Okay.
And he happens to be at the Hollywood Casino, who gracefully wanted to host us.
My
So
goodness.
it's going to be a great event.
Okay, and what is the registration cost for
Well,
this
there's a couple different registration costs. For example, if the participants wants to just attend in the morning, the whole event is $300. $250, which covers the Center for Hispanic Leadership training, which is 4 hours of a workshop in the morning, which is a precursor of a 6-month leadership training, wet-based. So that's just a precursor. The other $50 is to cover lunch. Now, if people just want to go to luncheon, it's $50 because we have to cover the food costs. But the great news is for the panels in the afternoon and the exhibit hall, it's absolutely free.
Really?
So anybody can come after lunch and take advantage of all the panel discussion from the different agencies in Ohio, how to do contracts with Ohio agencies, how to do contract with certain companies. For example, we're going to have people from different companies talking, like Wendy's, for example, or Hondas of the world, and things of that nature. And then an exhibit hall of companies that are looking to expand the business base with the Hispanic community. So the second half of the day is absolutely free, and I'll encourage everybody to go to the website, which I share that with you.
Okay, well, let me give the the website is www.centerforhispanic.leadership.com. They can go there,
Right.
and from there they can go into the on-site leadership training
Absolutely.
icon.
Right, which is exactly for Ohio.
Right, for Ohio. Okay. That is November the 7th. And what role are you playing? I know that obviously you're the president.
Well, that's interesting you ask, because my role has been to be the co-development of the whole program in conjunction with the Ohio Commission on Hispanic Latino Affairs. And I also have a role in part of the training, conducting part of the training in the morning.
Okay.
So not only the orchestra conductor, may I say, but I'll have an instrument to play as well.
But that is so powerful. What do you think positioned you, having been in the military, so you do know about accountability and leadership? That's a part of what you're trained to do, and you didn't ascend to colonel position without understanding and excelling in those skill sets. So how did you transfer that training and skill sets into the private sector model as a basis for developing Hispanic leaders?
That's a very good question, Michelle. But one of the things I'd like to share with you that, to me, I could have been a retired colonel and stay retired, enjoy life,
I can't imagine that.
and play more golf. But that was not my calling.
No.
My calling and my passion was to make someone that makes a significant impact in the communities where we live, work, and raise our families.
Yes.
So I took that passion and drove it into what can I do as a leader in my community to make this place a better place? So because of the cultural affinity with the Hispanic market,
yes,
I got engaged through the Hispanic chambers. And then for the Center for Hispanic Leadership, because I saw a unique need in Hispanics coming up in Ohio, something that will give them a better edge to be more competitive in the workplace. And the fact that Governor Kasich appointed me to be in the Minority Business Advisory Council, I saw the plethora of opportunities for contracts with the state of Ohio. And very, very few minorities, to include Hispanics, are ever competing for these.
Why is this so?
Well, a lot of it could be, you know, either lack of capacity or lack of knowledge that these opportunities are available. And sometimes it's the fact that they're afraid of teaming up with other companies to get on their coattail so they could qualify as a vendor, a direct vendor later on as a subcontractor. So I'm trying to open doors from a leadership perspective to do something about it.
Okay.
And this conference is a result of all these efforts. It's kind of like not only the culminating factor, but it's actually the genesis of something bigger throughout 2014 and 2015.
Well, let me ask you, what has the response been so far from potential registrants?
Well, the response has been really a little unique in the sense that we're getting some people signing up, but the response has been really, really positive from companies that really want to provide a venue for their own Hispanics within that company, or supervisors of Hispanic, how to actually take these capabilities into a new level. So it's interesting that we have companies like Fifth Third as the main sponsor, Honda, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, and others like Connexus more locally. They really embrace what we're trying to do, and they say, Rafi, we're behind you.
That is
and
so
this
good.
is the first wave of companies that will see the value on doing an event where the training goes for those people within those companies, as well as supervisors and so forth, to learn how to capture the essence that the Hispanic community brings to bear in business America.
What do you think the Hispanic community brings?
Well, first of all, passion.
We're
very passionate culture. Also, something very unique is entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
When you look at Latin America, well, let's take a look at the United States.
Okay.
In the United States, you have an option to be entrepreneurial or not.
Right.
The job opportunities are everywhere where you could be a leader or a follower. It's pretty well known. But in countries in Latin America, you may only have one choice: to be entrepreneurial, because the other job opportunities are not there. So we bring that edge. Okay, I have to figure this out. So we bring that immigrant perspective, and we look at opportunities in every corner. You know, we look at, since we come from an environment was a little harsh, a little difficult to move up the ladder, we had that edge. And the key fact is, as the world becomes more unified and smaller, more global, then these talents can be integrated into the American business mantra, not only to grow within the Hispanic market in America, but also international business all over the world.
Well, I must tell you, and you already know that statistics do not lie. In terms of population group, your people are the fastest growing population group in the United States today. And that's not a bad thing at all. I think that's a great thing, because again, it gives us opportunity to advance as a nation. And the fact that you all do speak Spanish, and Spanish is an international language as well as English, also enables you to do business in other countries fairly readily, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I had that experience in the military, having not only being bilingual, but bicultural, which is a key to success. Not only the Hispanic culture, but I was raised in a bilingual, bicultural environment when I was growing up in Puerto Rico. So I was a natural leader within the United States Air Force to be the bridge between the cultures. And I ended up doing foreign corporations or foreign military sales with countries all over the world, to include Latin America, because I had that cultural sensitivity in how to close deals. So
and that's bottom line in business.
That's bottom line. And I transferred some of that into my civilian career as well.
So in your own private practice, would you say that your bicultural background and perspective has been an asset?
Absolutely, because in Latin America, the concepts that we know as financial planning and saving for the future are not necessarily the norm in Latin America. So as being, again, bicultural and bilingual, I am the bridge between those Hispanics that are becoming more professional, getting very lucrative careers and jobs, is how to help them be part of the mainstream, how to use the
Okay.
technology and the processes, financial processes that we have in America to make themselves and their future a little more lucrative.
And their families.
And their families as well.
Yes,
Because
the
there's a
families.
great number of Latinos, including myself, that send money back home to help our parents or relatives that may have a need. But also I learned, being in the Air Force, how to plan for the future. So the planning aspect, not only to develop military weapon systems, but the financial planning, I noticed that the steps were virtually identical. So that's why the transition from science and technology in aerospace, from a planning perspective, to financial planning, because the steps were virtually the same. So it was actually, some people ask me, what make you turn from aerospace engineering to financial planning? I say, it was pretty simple. Let me show you why. It was the planning process.
Right. I think, in fact, I know the technology, which is consistent and never varies. And the same thing with financial planning. Once you establish a model, you just stay consistent with.
Stick with it.
You just stick with it. Well, this conference that's coming up, I'd be very interested in having you back to talk about the outcome. What do you think, just from your perspective, are the major leadership challenges that corporations are dealing with right now, and as you're dealing with a multicultural, bilingual staff?
Yeah. I think you kind of home in on the key aspect is, how do American corporations that are predominantly led by non-minorities, although that is growing, how do they tap into this hidden talent within their own workforce?
Yes.
You know, and again, it's not only linguistics, but culturally. How to tap into that? And also, by the same token, how do these young, emerging, diverse leaders in the making within a company, how do they develop a voice to communicate their talents with senior leadership to help them integrate them into the strategic planning from a business perspective? So the challenge is almost like, it's almost like a communication challenge. How do you open the doors of dialogue between your employees and your core leaders to become part of that decision making to make your business strategically viable?
Now, in a traditional corporate model, of course, corporations are changing as the changing of the guard is taking place, as men are retiring and moving on, and you're having this emerging group of people that are moving up the ladder. What flavor does the Hispanic culture bring to this new corporate model?
Well, when you look at what's the core of the Hispanic family, being the familia, the family,
Yes.
is a caring attitude for those who take care of you. It's probably more of a caring feeling around the workplace about my coworkers. It's more of a caring, almost like a family type environment. And also how to home in on building relationships for the long term, which is something that the Hispanic culture cherishes very much. We cherish relationships more so than the short-term sale.
Right.
So bringing those flavors of relationships, the family values that we could incorporate into our business, but most important, how to build trust. That's the key. With the Hispanic community, trust is one of the key tenets of our mantra. So how to continue to develop trust in every relationship that we build in business, from a simple vendor all the way to a major, a multi-level contractor that you work with, as well as trust within your employees and the people who make you successful. So if I could summarize, you know, the family value, the entrepreneurial spirit, the trust that we share so much, and also this issue about looking at opportunities in every corner.
Yes,
again,
I like that. I like that, Rafi.
There's a lot of characteristics that we bring to the table that companies are now beginning to realize we need to tap into that talent, because the world is becoming more global in nature.
Well, it's there. We're there. We're there. And we're not getting there. I believe we're there at the point you can Skype anywhere in the world and conduct business and talk to people in real time right now.
Absolutely.
The world is officially flat.
Right.
And but we still have all of these cultural variations that as we're kind of learning to discover one another and being open to the positive opportunities from other cultures and what we can do to benefit. That's what makes America such a microcosm of opportunity, just that ability to do that. This is wonderful, Rafi. I'm going to shift now and talk about your business.
Absolutely.
Okay, because that's really, particularly given the days that we're in. Now, you specialize in, as far as your niche, federal employees?
Right, and the reason for that is I mentioned something earlier that ties to my personal business. It's the same way I have cultural affinity with the Hispanic market. I have market affinity with the federal employees for two main reasons. One, I'm retired military, so I'm pretty familiar with the military benefits. But by the same token, my wife is a federal employee that works at the base, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Okay.
So I am very familiar with the federal benefits that she's enjoying right now. Okay. But by the same token, I offer the same services to federal employees, not only from the military, civil service employees at the Department of Defense, but any other agencies, because the benefits are virtually the same.
Really? I did not know that.
So a lot of things are similar, and I become a financial guide for the federal employees on how to make decisions about their money. It is their money, and for the reasons that are important to them and only to them. So I became a financial coach, a financial advisor, may I say, for federal employees here in the Dayton area.
Okay, but because of the similarity with other agencies, you also are skilled in advising any other branch of federal government. Is
Absolutely.
It not? Okay.
That's right. Like whether it's the Veterans Administration, Social Security.
Okay.
I even advise employees of the Ohio state government.
Really?
Whether they're teachers.
Yes. Okay, that's one. Well, let's talk about, because we are in bizarre times, Rafi, really, in terms of our economy. And we're not through it. And with this sequestration and shutdowns and all of this, how would you describe the impact of the current economy and recent furloughs on the lives of federal employees?
As a matter of fact, that this whole situation, which has been going on since 2008, it's just not here recently that is impacting federal employees more directly. In my conversations with federal employees, regardless of the agency, when I'm finding out that there's a lot of concern and a lot of personal anxiety about the uncertainty in the future. But by the same token, when I talk to federal employees that have a plan, as basic as it may be, they feel still a little concerned. I mean, the plan is not immune to any market jolts, but they feel more comfortable about the long-term view of their own finances and the short-term volatility of the markets or the economy for that matter. So the common theme is those people that have a plan are probably better suited to handle the turmoil, the turbulence that we go through, because at least they have a plan that they could actually review every so often and do mid-course corrections. Those that don't really are the ones who suffer the most anxiety, in my experience.
So given that I personally feel that things are going to be turbulent for a long time because the government is dealing with the issue of debt and employees and press. Washington is pulled with this issue of revenue. Should federal employees, from your perspective, anticipate and plan for this continuing situation?
As a matter of fact, it's a premise right now that the next, I would imagine the next couple of years, we're going to see turbulence still going on because of the increase the debt.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's, you got to pay the.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Somebody's got to end up paying the piper sooner or later. But this is a time where federal employees need to take a look at where are they, where do they want to be, and how do I react to this tumultuous times that we're going through. And having a plan is very, very key. And then not only having a plan, but review the plan with their financial professional more often.
Okay.
Because it used to be we could just do it once a year. Well, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, based on what's going on. But the number one area of concern that I've seen a lot of federal employees being caught off guard
Okay.
is the fact that they don't have enough rainy day accounts, savings accounts for these emergencies.
Safe, stable.
Saved and stable, just to navigate through these turbulent waters in the short 2-3 months, whatever that time calls for the federal government to make a decision. So increasing their savings accounts for emergencies has been a major driver in my practice to ensure that they have enough money to navigate through these times.
So you're talking about what percent of their...
Well, percentages, it's hard to describe because in some cases, a couple in the federal government may have enough assets from a retirement, from another job already. So there's already a streamline of saved money coming in.
Okay.
But typically, the common wisdom says 3 to 6 months of your net income should be put aside for a rainy day. That's still the norm, 3 to 6 months.
So you don't think it should be more given the circumstances we find ourselves in today?
Well, more is better, but by the same token, you don't want to forego the growth in an investment for the future by having too much short term.
Right.
So there has to be a balance between short term emergencies and the long term growth for your future goals.
So what should a federal employee include in their financial plan?
Well, this is a biggie because there's a lot of information that the financial plan should have to be comprehensive. One is their sources of income. Whether it's a single mom or single dad, single parent, or a couple, what have you. All that income needs to be included to take a look at a strategic view of their lives. In addition to that, you should include your budget and your cash flow, and these two things are different. A budget is your plan of your expenditure plan. The cash flow is the real how is the money coming in and going out. Sometimes people confuse those. In addition to that, it should be very clearly articulated and identify what are your future goals, whether it's for retirement, college funding for the kids or grandkids, vacations, travel, whatever that may be. That should be clearly articulated. And also you should include your assets and liabilities, things that you own that have value. For example, your home, your savings accounts, your investments, and what have you, to include the Thrift savings plan for the federal government, and things that your jewelry, things that you own, heirlooms and what have you, as well as your liability, things that you owe. If you have a mortgage, you got to include that, or any credit cards or any student loans or what have you, things that are a liability that you're obligated to pay. And by the same token, you should include your estate planning documents, your wills, your trust, your healthcare powers of attorney, your financial powers of attorney. And you can see this can be very complicated very quickly. So being comprehensive is the key, to include as much. And just as important, including all that information, are identifying the key metrics of success. How do we know we are achieving our goals?
How do you know?
Well, in the case of my practice, I do analysis with a proprietary financial planning software, and we do what's called Monte Carlo analysis. It's a way to look at past data and do future projections and assess the probability of success to achieving that particular goal.
Okay. Now let me ask you, when you talk about looking at their financial plan, do you show them as a part of your review process where they may be hemorrhaging? For example, if a person has a mortgage, and we know what's happened in the mortgage industry, does a person, if they're upside down where they're actually the value of their asset has declined versus the mortgage payments they're making, do you get involved in that type of work?
Well, actually, in a financial plan, when we talk about assets and liabilities, one asset is your home.
Yes, big one.
And sometimes I ask people, when was the last time that you appraised your home? So we could identify the real value of your home. And then in the liabilities, there's a mortgage. So if there's an issue there that may be out of skew, like you said, they owe more than the house is worth, then I'm more than open to work with these agencies that work on helping people in getting the house in order, whether it's refinancing or the case may be. And I noticed there's still some opportunities for refinancing.
Oh, yeah, there are.
And for example, if they need to go to a place to refinance a loan, what are the assets that could be used as a collateral, for example, in the investments? It could also be, cash value in a life insurance for
It
that
could
matter.
be.
So I coach the client and what to present to a lender to show a better picture of their situation.
Of their lending. You said that you review their financial plan more than annually. You're a little bit different because most financial planners do an annual sit down with their clients, but you will review the financial plan how often?
Well, I have a philosophy that my client is the CEO of his life.
They are.
I become the CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
Yes, okay.
And like in business, we report quarterly the status of the finances to the CEO, so he or she can make financial decisions on behalf of the company. I use the same philosophy of quarterly reviews. Now, not every quarterly review is exactly the same. We look at different parts of the plan. But quarterly implies that I have my due diligence responsibility to my client, to the federal employee or whoever that may be, to report how things are going so that the CEO, that person who's the CEO of his own life, has a better grasp of the things that they need to act on to keep the plan on track.
Okay.
So I enjoy and I recommend a quarterly meeting. And now every quarter is a different aspect of the plan, but my client seems to like it. It's more frequent and they get more in tune with their financial plans and the rest of their lives.
Do they view themselves as ultimately accountable? Since they are the CEO, the buck stops with the CEO, the CFO, the buck does not stop with you. Are they willing to, has it been your experience that they're willing to accept that role without a lot of resistance?
That's a good question, Michelle. One of the things that I do in my practice, we have a financial planning agreement where I am committed to do the following assessments and reviews, but the ultimate decision lies with the client. And that determines how we proceed with the relationship. In just about every case, the clients follow their recommendations and they follow through because they're accountable. It is their decision
It is their decision,
absolutely.
right.
But I stop at the point of the recommendation.
Okay.
The client has to make the decision. And there's been some cases where if the client does not want to proceed or I sense where they just not taking action where they should, I mean, I had the prerogative to terminate that relationship.
Oh, you can resign as their CFO.
Absolutely. If the CEO is not taking the decision that they should based on their plan and based on the things that will give them a probability of success, there's no guarantees, and they're not taking the decision and there's a degree of procrastination, at some point, as a business owner, I have to evaluate, is this time that I'm spending in helping this individual or this business owner for that matter, to make decisions for the benefit, and if there's no action and there's no sense from my perspective of accountability, I have the right to terminate the relationship. It hasn't happened often at all. But,
I can't imagine, but
most of my
again,
clients move forward, yeah.
Good. What is the role of Social Security in these federal employee retirement benefits?
The Social Security is a pivotal and a strong base for any financial plan. Most people still believe that they get the Social Security statement like we used to on our birthday.
Yes.
If you're less than 65 years old, the Social Security Administration has cut that a couple of years ago. So you actually have to register.
Gracious.
You have to register on the my Social Security website to get your report. But that report is key to financial planning because it has different amounts based on the amount of credit quarters that you have.
Yes.
It has different amounts whether you retire at 62, on your full retirement, which is dependent on your age when you were born, and retirement at 70. That is integrated in the financial plan with any other benefits that your spouse may have or not.
Okay.
So synchronizing Social Security with your retirement plan is key to having a more robust income during retirement. Sometimes you may take it too early, and that may not be the best choice. Maybe waiting to 70 may be the best choice, but that's uniquely to each individual based on the different assets and income that we get to analyze for that particular case.
So you get involved in Social Security review as well?
Oh,
for your
absolutely.
clients?
That's key.
See, I'll be honest with you, Rafi. I did not know federal employees got Social Security.
Right. Some of them do, depending on whether they're in the old civil service retirement system or the federal employees retirement system, what they call CSRS or FIRST. Some CSRS may have had a chance to contribute to Social Security, maybe in another job. But first, typically, they do contribute to Social Security. So conjugating and integrating the federal income, income from your spouse from another employment or retirement benefits with Social Security, all that should be integrated into a comprehensive financial plan.
Now, tell me about the Thrift Savings Plan that is extended to federal employees.
Right, as we call it, the TSP, the three letters that identify the program. That's a phenomenal program. It's the equivalent of a 401k
In the private sector?
in the private sector
Okay.
for federal employees.
So the government contributes to a TSP?
Right, and it all depends whether you're FIRST or CSRS. Typically for FIRST employees, there's a matching formula, but for CSRS may not be.
Okay.
So you have to consult with your local rep at the federal ministry to assess whether you get matching funds or not. But it's like a 401k, and it has some unique features to it that are different than a 401k. For example, if a person is eligible to retire at 55 in the federal government, they may be eligible to start drawing out of the TSP.
Are you serious?
Which typically is 59 and a half
exactly.
on another program.
Right.
And they may be able to annuitize that early, like I mentioned. But
can they take it as a lump sum?
Oh, well, typically, if you take a lump sum, they may be
not as but a rollover. Can
it
they
could
roll
be
it?
They could roll it over into their own IRA.
IRA, yeah.
But if they roll over into an IRA, then they may be facing the 59 and a half age.
Oh, I got it. Versus the 55. Okay.
If they decide to retire early and if they qualify, there's some qualification restrictions there. But the biggest challenge with the TSP is consult with your financial professional to see what is to your best interest. Because unfortunately, a 401k, you may be able to see exactly the investments that you're purchasing and so forth. In the TSP, it's a little more, I don't want to say obscure, but it's not as easy. There's a title that you're buying in securities, but it doesn't tell which ones. So transparency is not as good as your own 401k.
So you can't really see the individual equity accounts for particular assets?
It's very difficult. So that's managed by the trust account. But the TSP is a great program. I encourage everybody that if you qualify for TSP, to go ahead and
what are the qualifications? You have to be a federal employee.
And from the get-go, start putting money aside.
Money in. But how much do you know the government will be matching if they're in the
different formulas, different formulas, up to a certain percentage or what have you. That's something that people, federal employees, can check whether on the OPM website or the TSP website.
But anytime you can leverage somebody else's money,
absolutely,
that's a big plus.
That's right. Never leave money on the table.
Never. What about the federal employee health care plan?
This is one of the benefits that I will always recommend. Take a look at it. It's a very robust. But with the recent Obamacare, one of the things is that both federal governments and private business and government agencies and even individuals, you have to comply with a minimum required health care benefits. The good news is that the federal employee health benefit does qualify for that minimum requirement.
It does?
It does.
So they don't have to go into an exchange?
No, I don't. The federal health benefit system already meets those criteria. The thing that I encourage people, especially federal employees, to take a look at is ensure that if you have children, that they're covered, because if there is some children that are under your tutelage for tax purposes, as a tax write-off, and you need to comply with those Obamacare rules, or there could be a penalty. And that's really complicated. We don't have time to discuss it here, but check on the OPM website, on the Obama Healthcare website, and I have some information on my website to know exactly what the parameters are.
Let's pause. And what is your website?
It's very simple. It's www.askrafi.com.
I love it.
It's ASK RAFI.
AskRafi.com.
.com.
And they will be able to, as federal employees, get information on the health care plan and other resources as well.
I have information not only generic to the public, but information about federal employees as well.
Okay. What about group life?
Well, let's talk about group life. Group life it's a program, and the federal government has it like many other companies do, where you're in a pool, in a pooled contract where you are you get a certificate of participation. But regardless of whether you're an individual or a group, you should take advantage because the government subsidizes a percentage of it. The health insurance is something that's so key. If something happens to the federal employee, God forbid, that's immediate income from that breadwinner that's no longer with us to provide income to the family, to the spouse, children, or dependents of that individual.
But can they choose how much? Is it a fixed amount of life insurance, or can they buy up more coverage?
Yeah, absolutely. The federal government offers a basic program and then some add-ons depending on your dependents, and they have some tables that tell you how much it would cost. It's very, very affordable. The key question on the federal employee health insurance is, what is the value of a group policy that you only a participant, you don't own it, or a life insurance policy that you own where you have more control? That's something worth discussing with the professional financial advisor so they could see the pros and cons.
Yes, because certainly, and not to cut you off, but one of the key things that's happening right now in municipalities is they are canceling or cutting back on the amount of group life coverage that is available to their employees. And I'm saying municipalities in this area, people are down to $5,000 of group life that started out at 15, and now because of budget crisis, they're down to 5, and they don't have any owned insurance. Their insurance was a part of that group. So, you know, do you counsel people to at least have their own?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that's why having a financial plan that you review so often is so critical, because if there's a fork on the road that you say, okay, in the last 3 months I was cut off on my health insurance, or it could be a life insurance for that matter, that should be identified in the plan so you could have a mitigating action. Okay, that's what happened, how do we correct it? That's why these periodic reviews are so critical, to ensure that our boat is on the right track and in the right direction. So I do advise people, you know, you may want to consider having your own policy just in case the government policies diminish or whatever. It could be an employee of a private company. But owning your own life insurance has some benefits, especially if it's a cash value kind of policy. So this is one of the items I always recommend people consult with your professional advisor to ensure that you're making the right decision.
I really believe that it is suicide, given the complexities of the financial markets today, for people to try to wing it. And I know that some of them say, I can do this, and I said, but I can't do your job. Why do you think you can do mine? But people sometimes have a difficult time making that transition. Have you found that to be the case sometimes?
Absolutely. And when I was in the military, I learned very, very quickly that it's better to home in on the skills that you're very good at.
Yes.
And delegate or outsource, as we used to say, to the people that have expertise and other things that is not my area of expertise. That way you could focus more on the things that you love and you're passionate about versus the things that require a lot of time and expertise. And it was very difficult for me to do my own financial planning and my military mission planning. It was very difficult, so I had a financial planner when I was on active duty. So that's how I learned the value of planning. And even in my practice, there's some things that I delegate. For example, you know, I have an accountant and a CPA to handle all the number crunching and the business. I just give the receipts and she'll figure it out. So even in my practice, I have some expertise that I consult with within the financial planning industry, whether it's on the estate planning side, I consult with attorneys. On the long-term care side, I have long-term care specialists that help me address those issues. On the life insurance, I have experts on life insurance that help me identify the right course of action for a particular client, as well as portfolio management. I have experts that ensure that we are on the right track for that particular client.
That's smart. That is wisdom. To me, that's wisdom, because one cannot know it all. Only a fool would think they could know it all. That's just to me so irresponsible. But on the subject of long-term care, should a federal employee consider long-term care, particularly when the statistics say that, I think it's something like almost 70% of Americans over 65 are going to need long-term care. That is a staggering data point.
From a financial planning perspective, what I notice in long-term care is that sooner or later we're going to be facing that challenge. And why build this phenomenal wealth over the years just to find out that if you don't have a long-term care protection or a long-term care strategy, a long-term care situation can actually drain that wealth very, very quickly. And the person who suffers, typically the person who suffers the most in a long-term care situation is not the individual receiving the care, it's the family. The family.
La familia.
La familia, because they're doing without, because the money, the income that was supposed to be for the spouse or the grandkid, whatever the case may be, now has to be diverted to something that is very costly. So having a long-term care strategy, which could be done in many different venues through long-term care policies and other financial instruments, is very important, because a long-term care strategy is there to protect the rest of the assets so they could go to the right objective, to the right goal. And when we're looking at long-term care, this is a kind of service that's provided to help you with the typical activities of daily living, from waking up, bathing, transferring, or what have you. And even in the case of Alzheimer's, you know, it's to help you with those day-to-day activities that we take for granted, like getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth or eating, so, and things of that nature. So long-term care is a very real case. And the interesting thing is that 40% of the long-term care recipients in America are between 18 and 64.
Whoa.
So there's still a lot of younger people that need that.
Right.
Because this is either due to an accident or some other condition, they need long-term care. So it is a real situation. We are living longer.
Yes, we are.
Not necessarily healthier.
Yeah, but we are.
But
they're
getting older.
keeping us alive.
That's right. So long-term care is something that everybody should consider, to have a strategy on how to handle that. And the strategy could be as simple as a long-term care policy, or maybe including the members of your family to take care of you. Maybe use some of your existing assets, divert them to long-term care. It is a serious problem in our country, and we should all have a way of mitigating that.
Well, I tell you, it's one of, I had said to my viewers, this is one of my real big issues for this year. And that is that long-term care is the next crisis facing our country. I see it. The baby boomers, of which you and I are part of. We, 78 million of us, come on, Rafi, who's going to take care of us?
Well, and then going back to the Hispanic culture.
Yes, yes,
you know, we come from a very tight-knit family. Coming to America to pursue the American dream, what we're actually doing is, you know, we bring our family, but as we grow and develop and become more professionals, guess what happens to us? We move to different locations. So the family that used to be there back home to help us in all this situation now is fragmented.
Right.
So that's the same challenge that other fellow Americans have been going through. The family has been scattered all over.
Yes.
So somebody who has their own children in California, for example, it's going to be hard for them to come back to Ohio and take care of you.
Right.
So to some extent, I'm even coaching young Hispanics. At some point, it may behoove you to buy a long-term care policy to take care of your mom, not necessarily for you,
but for your parents.
For your parents.
I think that's wise advice, because, and frankly, I was at an event this past weekend and had that conversation with young people, which is, you're going to have to take out long-term care insurance and pay for it for your parents who are baby boomers in denial. The Pepsi generation in this country is real, and most of the baby boomer generation does not believe that it's going to happen to them, despite the fact that it is. So the children are going to be ultimately financially responsible. And so many of them are like, I can't hardly make it myself without talking about my parents. Now, I know you said your parents were still in Puerto Rico.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But I went through that myself, you know, with
Okay.
both my parents got ill. I have a
Yeah.
twin brother, so I'm very fortunate that he stayed home taking care of mom and dad.
So you're a
but-
twin.
Yeah, I went to.
Ah.
But it was very hard for me being on active duty, serving my country,
Yes.
knowing that somebody at home needed help, but I had my brother, so it became a financial responsibility for me to help with the finances, to help mitigate some of this medical costs and what have you. And we're living longer. You know, I have the example when both my parents passed away. I still have an aunt, my mom's sister, who lived to be 105.
My words.
And she was taken care of.
105.
And she was taken care of by her only surviving sister of 96.
96-year-old sister taking care of a 105-year-old
Right.
sister.
So you're talking a long-term care in real life.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot
Rafi.
a lot of the cousins, you know, we have a lot of cousins
Yes.
in
Oh,
our Hispanic
yes.
culture.
Oh, yes.
We ended up helping financially because it became a financial struggle. But long-term care is real. It's here, and we just have to face it. It's going to touch us. It's going to touch our lives sooner or later.
Well, I want you to cover my last question, which is, because time is up, and I want to get this answered. What sources are available for federal employees to get more information?
Oh, yeah, I just had them written down here, and you can share them with the audience. First of all is the OPM, Office of Personal Management.gov. That's one of the main sources for federal employees. You also have the myfederalretirement.com.
myfederalretirement.com. Okay.
And you have the Federal Handbook. I recommend everybody to have the handbook because it gives you some quick references on some of these questions. Another key is the socialsecurity.com, actually .gov, I'm sorry.
Okay,
the Social Security website. And also you have there are many other sources, but those are the key ones for the federal government. And my website is available. I have a lot of educational videos and articles of interest. So is the AskRafi.com.
So that's AskRafi.com. That's a lot. And I think a lot of this is also applicable to those who are not necessarily federal employees.
A lot of this information applies to every hardworking American.
Yes, it
whether
does.
they're self-employed, whether they're W-2 employees, 1099s, contractors, or federal employees. Financial planning is for everybody.
Well, I just want to conclude by saying that you are indeed a remarkable person.
Thank you.
And I think that your vision and your drive is not only inspirational, but I think that it also portends of the days ahead as more and more of your people interact and are involved in the American culture. I believe that Hispanic flavor is going to be much needed in the days ahead as our country deals with the challenges of a bilingual, multicultural nation. America has changed, and I believe for the better. So I want to thank you, and I want to shake your hand.
Thank you. Thank you for having me
your
on.
time today.
Thank you.
And for those of you that watched today's segment, Jose Rafi Rodriguez, an amazing man, president of his own firm, Rodriguez Financial Strategies, LLC. And also he is the president at the Center for Hispanic Leadership for the state of Ohio. If you have an opportunity, remember November 7th, 2013, the first annual Hispanic Workforce and Economic Development Summit that he is chairing. Awesome, awesome times to be in. I'm Michelle Graves, and you know I embrace change. I'm not a stick in the mud. I have to keep it moving. And it's people like Rafi that make it such a joy. Closing today's segment of The Power of Money, I'm your host, Michelle Graves, as always, wishing you an awesome and stellar week, and God bless you, and tune in for our next show. You take care. Bye-bye.